Dream of a world where my 4 little children will live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. Let no man pull you so low as to hate him. The time is always right to do what is right. Forgiveness is not an occasional act, it is a constant attitude. A man who won't die for something is not fit to live. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? If I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. He who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps to perpetrate it. We must learn to live together as brothers or perish together as fools. There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe nor politic nor popular, but he must take it because conscience tells him it is right. Every man must decide whether he will walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. No one really knows why they are alive until they know what they'd die for. I refuse to accept the view that mankind is so tragically bound to the starless midnight of racism and war that the bright daybreak of peace and brotherhood can never become a reality. We are prone to judge success by the index of our salaries or the size of our automobiles rather than by the quality of our service and relationship to humanity. The soft-minded man always fears change. He feels security in the status quo, and he has an almost morbid fear of the new. Whatever affects one directly, affects all indirectly. Faith is taking the first step even when you don't see the whole staircase. The hottest place in hell is reserved for those who remain neutral in times of great moral conflict. True peace is not merely the absence of tension. It is the presence of justice. I mourn the loss of thousands of precious lives, but I will not rejoice in the death of one, not even an enemy. The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. Intelligence plus character, that is the goal of true education. All labor that uplifts humanity has dignity and importance and should be undertaken with painstaking excellence. It may be true that the law cannot make a man love me, but it can keep him from lynching me, and I think that's pretty important. Never succumb to the temptation of bitterness. Change does not roll in on the wheels of inevitability, but comes through continuous struggle. The quality, not the longevity, of one's life is what is important. To ignore evil is to become an accomplice to it. Freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It must be demanded by the oppressed. Peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that goal. A riot is the language of the unheard. We must build dikes of courage to hold back the flood of fear. Nothing in the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. Rarely do we find men who willingly engage in hard, solid thinking. There is an almost universal quest for easy answers and half-baked solutions. The art of acceptance is the art of making someone who has just done you a small favor Wish that he might have done you a greater one. Property is intended to serve life, and no matter how much we surround it with rights and respect, it has no personal being. I believe that unarmed truth and unconditional love will have the final word in reality. The hope of a secure and livable world lies with disciplined nonconformists who are dedicated to justice, peace, and brotherhood. Man must evolve for all human conflict a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. Nonviolence is a powerful and just weapon. It cuts without wounding and ennobles the man who wields it. We must concentrate not merely on the negative expulsion of war, but the positive affirmation of peace. The curse of poverty has no justification in our age. History will have to record that the greatest tragedy of this period of social transition was not the strident clamor of the bad people, but the appalling silence of the good people. The choice is not between violence and nonviolence, but between nonviolence and non-existence. We must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power to love. The process of education occurs within the context of history, culture, and community. An individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. Hatred paralyzes life. Love releases it. Hatred confuses life. Love harmonizes it. Hatred darkens life. Love illuminates it. We must come to see that the end we seek is a society at peace with itself, a society that can live with its conscience. It is cheerful to God when you work cheerfully. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. The gospel at its best deals with the whole man, not only his soul but also his body, not only his spiritual well-being but also his material well-being. One has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. If a man hasn't discovered something he will die for, he isn't fit to live. When you are right, you cannot be too radical. When you are wrong, you cannot be too conservative. The church must be reminded that it is not the master or the servant of the state, but rather the conscience of the state. Oppressed people cannot remain oppressed forever. The yearning for freedom eventually manifests itself. We must meet hate with love. The salvation of the world lies in the hands of the creatively maladjusted. I am not interested in power for power's sake, but I'm interested in power that is moral, that is right, and that is good. Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle. The moral arc of the universe bends at the elbow of justice. The problem of racism, the problem of economic exploitation, and the problem of war are all tied together. We must use time creatively, in the knowledge that the time is always ripe to do right. No person has the right to reign on your dreams. We must all learn to live together as brothers, or we will all perish together as fools. I believe that the universe is on the side of justice. If we are to go forward, we must go back and rediscover those precious values, that all reality hinges on moral foundations, and that all reality has spiritual control. We must combine the toughness of the serpent and the softness of the dove, a tough mind and a tender heart. The principle of love is the key to the solution of the problems of the world. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. We are now faced with the fact that tomorrow is today. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. The road to freedom is a difficult, hard road.